Hello and welcome to another Purveyor of Light Capture One quick tip. Today we've got a nice beginner's tip, basically a introduction to get started with Capture One. A lot of people ask me questions all the time about Capture One and whether they should stick with Lightroom or they should move to Capture One or they try one and then they get confused over the other. So I'm going to get you started, okay? Because personally, I have found Capture One to be just a better product at this point. And there's a couple reasons for that. But I'll give you two of the main ones right now, all right? One thing is I've never been a fan of Adobe's monthly subscription. Just never have been. I don't like renting my software and then everything that I've ever done, all my work, all my edits and everything else are now prisoner of this. Either I keep renewing my subscription or, I lose all those edits or I have to lock them into JPEGs to keep the settings. I don't like that idea. Okay. I like having to own my software and I can keep using it for as long as I wish to keep using it. And I only buy it once. Okay, so that's the number one reason. So with Capture One, you can just purchase the product and be done with it. You pay for it once, and then you just use it for as long as you wish. Whether you plan on using it a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, the product is yours to keep. Okay, so I like that. Number two thing is more of a technical thing, is using Capture One, it just seems to give me better results, especially when you're dealing with color corrections. I'm constantly amazed on how well Capture One works with color corrections, blending skin tones and so forth like that. I've never seen another product as good as Capture One to do these things. Okay, so those are my two big ones right there. But today I'm going to show you how to get started. And I'm going to put a little common sense in, so I'm not here to insult anybody or make anybody feel inadequate. That's not the point. Okay, but I am going to talk straight to you guys because sometimes we need to hear the straight in order for us to start thinking clearly. Okay, so I'm in Capture One right now, and the first thing for those of you that are Lightroom users, you're going, oh my God, everything's here on the left. What's on the right? What's this on the right? Where's my timeline? Where's my thing? This is totally different. I don't know what to do. I'm confused. Well, the first thing is relax. Okay? And I'm going to give you some analogies here. Okay? Yes, everything's over here on the left, and there are tabs, and I'm going, oh my God. Right? I don't want to have to relearn something all over again. Okay. You ever buy a new car? Okay. And you get in the new car and you go, oh, it's got a steering wheel where it's supposed to be, so that's good. But then all of a sudden you go, how do I turn on the headlights? Where's the knob for that? Where's the knob for my mirrors? Oh, that's different. Or that's different. Or that's different. You get my point? Is when you get something new, there are going to be little changes and little things that are different, but in a matter of no time whatsoever, you're off driving that car, and you're not worried about adjusting the mirrors or where the headlights on, because you learn that so quickly, and you're willing to because it's a brand new car, right? Same thing here, okay, with Capture One. Capture One is the most flexible tool you'll ever find, all right? In fact, it's so customizable, it's ridiculous. You can make it into some whole other product. But let me show you here. So this is the default layout of Capture One. But if you want to ease into things, okay, and you want to go in and say, okay, I want it to be more like Lightroom, go to Workspace and go, well, let me help with the migration. And bingo bango, does this look a little more familiar? Everything is now on the left, and Now we have our time film strip on the bottom, and we have that just like it's in Lightroom. Okay? Now, I don't recommend you do this, okay? But if you want to start off and this is what you're comfortable with, go ahead. All right? So just go up to Window and then hit Workspace and then hit Migration. But I recommend staying with the default, okay? Because there are advantages to Capture One, all right? So let's just give you a little introduction to the interface here. And one of the first things is you go, well, this is different. What's this session thing and blah, blah, blah. So Capture One works on two things. They call them either catalogs or sessions. Okay? Now, a new catalog, that's very similar to what Lightroom uses. Lightroom uses one big catalog, and all your photos get put into that database, and the more photos you put into it, the slower it gets. Okay? And if we've all used Lightroom, we know the more photos you put in, the slower it gets, the worse it performs. Okay? But you'll notice that Capture One has an alternative called a session, a new session. Now, a new session, and I love the concept of session, it allows you to group photos or trips or clients or whatever you're working with into a single session. And that single session is a folder with a bunch of subfolders below it that you could just literally copy from one drive to another. And we all now, over time, know that we're developing a whole catalog of external hard drives and SSD drives and so forth, because space is always, you're always growing, you're always adding photos. So over time, I find the session workflow to be much better, okay? And it's very easy because then your work is transportable. All right. And it's not reliant on having to be in one giant database. All right. So I'm going to ask you to just start with sessions and try to cut your teeth on that. And I think you'll grow to appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to start a brand new session. And the first thing it's going to ask me is, name your session. And I'm going to go ahead and just, for the demo here, Models 2 session. Okay, so now I know, and then I can choose the path and where I want it to go, and this path by default is just fine. And you'll notice here, oh, excuse me, it says capture folder, select folder, output folder, trash folder. Oh my God, what is all this? Well, this is the way sessions work, okay, and I prefer it because I think it's a superior way of working. You know how many times you work on photos, you edit them, you work in RAW, you come back, you go into Photoshop, blah, 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 and you wind up having RAW files, edited files, and altered files, and JPEG exports, and all TIFF files, and all these things, because during your workflow, these things are all generated. Okay? Sessions in Capture One automate that whole process for you. By default, all your new photos are going to go right into the capture folder. Then you're going to have selections as you cull your photos, right? And your culled photos, the ones that you want to work on, will go into the selects folder. Your output, well, you output to social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Flickr or whatever your outputs for printing, all your output files will go into a subfolder called output. And your trash, well, that's a little insurance policy here that you could put things in the trash inside a session and they're not really gone. They're in the trash in the session, so you can always recover them. That's a bonus. All right? So I'm happy with all defaults. I'm going to leave that and I'm going to hit OK. All right? And here we are. We've created it. We look up top. We can see Model 2 session and everything's empty. Okay? Now, how do you put in pictures, right? You shoot, you got a memory card, and you plug that into your computer, and you just hit import. And by default, it's going to find the memory card and it's going to look it over. And now we can turn around and say, okay, where here I have a choice, import to. Well, it says import into the session folder, right? Or the caption folder. If I put it right into the caption folder, and we could just, if I wanted to rename these things at the time, I could go ahead and rename the file names as they went in. I could change the metadata as it goes in. I could put copyright information and so forth. Again, these are totally optional steps, okay? But if you would like to do that, all that's available into it. If you want to have some presets applied during import, you can do that as well. Okay, so basically for our purposes here, for getting started, we've got a memory card full of images, and I go, okay, here we go. I'm going to go right into the capture folder. That's where they're going. And that's all I need to worry about. All the files are checked, and I hit import all. All right. And now it's going to go ahead and import that memory card into the computer. And you can see the one thing I want you to realize is this is a background process, which means I can go to work right away. I don't have to wait. So I can come right in here and start working on images. Okay, I can come in and start doing edits. I don't have to wait for the thing. Okay, that's the beauty of Capture One, right? In Lightroom, it's not a background image. You got to wait for the cards to come in. You don't need to in Capture One, so you can get right to work. All right. So now we've got the basics, right? We've loaded up Capture One. We now know how to make a new session. We gave it a name, and we know where those files are going to go. Okay. And this image process is going in. It's making all the previews, and I can go ahead and start working on this image. Now, over here on the left, this is the interface that you're going to just start to grow and learn. All right. First tab over here is your library, and that's basically your hard drive, your folder structures, whether you're going to put ratings on files, right? If this picture is a 5-star or 4-star. And you put all those things in there. If you want to color code your images, okay, you can most certainly do so. Just by clicking on your things, you can pre-select and don't select. Okay, so the next thing is the camera exposure. If you wanted to tether your camera, control it. The next tab over is your lens correction. The profiles, what kind of profile is this? What kind of camera was it shot with? What lens it was shot with? You can do that, and Capture One will profile the image to those hardware. The next thing here is the 3 circles, which is your basic exposure, histogram, white balance, and so forth on. Black and white, normalize. Here you have your what I call your general tab of exposures, your white balance, your exposure, your things. And again, there's not really a learning curve here going from Lightroom. Okay, if I slide exposure coming from Lightroom, you know exactly what that's going to do. That's gonna, if I slide that over, it's gonna brighten it. If I go the other way, it's gonna darken it. Okay. So there's no real big learning curve. If you understand exposure in Lightroom, you're going to understand exposure in Capture One. All right, so then we continue on through the lists, and we have layers. Okay, now this is something here, layers. All right, this is something that Lightroom does not have. All right, but basically you're able to build up your effects, your local adjustments. Okay. So that you can keep everything on a separate layer. Very much like Photoshop, okay, where things are kept in separate layers. That gives you incredible flexibility, and we're not going to go over, how to use layers here, but because this is an introduction to get you started. But once you start using layers in Capture One, you're never going to go back. Trust me. And then you go, what's the next thing here? And styles and presets. Styles and presets are very much like they are in Lightroom. These are predefined, preset up styles and presets to have a particular effect look you want to have. And then the last thing is your metadata tab. And so if you want to put any metadata in this image. Now, all fine and dandy. And then you have a whole selection of tools across the top, which is everything from your touch-up brush to, and just hover over them, and it tells you, here's your healing brush, here's your things for localized degree adjustments. Everything is all here, very easy to use. So now you go, okay, but what if I don't like this? Maybe I want to make it my own. I want to have my own thing, my own workflow. Well, right-click right here, and then say, add a tool tab. And I can turn around and say, I'm going to make a custom tool tab. All right. Now it's going to say, well, what's the name of this guy? All right. And I'm going to say, it's mine. All right. Makes sense, right? And I'm going to give it an icon so I could recognize it quickly that this is mine. I'm going to give it a heart because I'm going to go, these are my favorites. And so I give it the heart and I add the tab. And now look, we have a tab with the heart. Okay. And now nothing's here because we haven't added anything. But I go, well, how do I like to work when I edit photos? Well, I like to right click and go, okay, I'm going to add a tool. All right. Add a tool. What do I like? Well, I usually like to see the histogram. All right. Drop a histogram in. What else do you like? Okay, well, when I edit photos, I like to work with the white balance. Gotcha. Right click, add tool. White balance. Okay, what else you got? You're building a custom interface built just for you, the way you like to work. What else do you like to, how do you work? Well, okay, maybe you would like to add exposure. Well, here we go. So now we're building our own interface here, okay? And this will be accessible to us all the time just by hitting the heart, all right? And I'll say, well, that's great. I also like, I'm a big fan of levels, all right? So let's put levels in. And I'm going to speed it up so I don't bore you over time. And I go, well, I like curves too. And put a curve in. And I say, is there anything else that I particularly like? And I'm going to go, maybe high dynamic range. Put that in there too. And now that's my tab. So here we go. We're on this. I go on to work my way. There's my toolkit. This is the way it will happen every time we launch Capture One. And everything is there and to my liking. So I can go ahead and go to work. I can go, okay, I like to start with the histogram. Here it is. All right, I'm looking at the histogram. Great. And my white balance. Am I happy with the white balance? I can go as shot. I can go, well, is it tungsten? And I go, oh, no, that's too cool. Cloudy. And I'm going to go on. So I'm happy with the white balance. I could make manual adjustments. I can go into the exposure and I go, well, the exposure is pretty good, but maybe I want to boost it up just a little bit. And maybe I want to increase the contrast a little bit. And let's see, saturation. Yeah. A little bit there. Okay, now my levels. All right. I could even turn around and just cheat and use automatic levels by clicking a single auto button. Now it's done the adjustment for me on the levels. I go curve. I could, again, do anything I wish. I could work the levels by putting points on the levels. And I could do a little gentle S curve. And this is nothing new, you guys, right? I mean, you guys are all familiar with all of this. So here I go. And my high dynamic range is my last section. And I can go, well, I could bring the highlights back. I could bring the shadows up or down, depending on what I want to do. I can set the white point, the black point, etc., etc. And when I'm done, hey, I've edited the photo. And I didn't have to conform to how Capture One worked. I made my own custom interface. Okay? So this is your introduction. Okay? This is enough to, as they say, to cut your teeth on it. All right? We've showed you how to turn around and load up photos, how to make a new session, how to do some basic edits, and how to make your own custom edit panel tool so that you can work the way you're comfortable. All right? And in later lessons, we'll go over each area in more depth and in more depth. But for now, this is meant to get you started. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead, if you haven't, download the demo of Capture One. Start playing with it. Throw some photos in. Just get comfortable. And remember, you can't hurt anything because everything in Capture One is non-destructive. All right? So here, I've made all these things. So let's just, oh my God, I ruined the whole photo. All right? And I can hit the before and after up here. Look at that. Oh my God, what did I do? I ruined it. Well, all I have to do is just hit the reset button. And we're right back where we were. Okay? Because it's all non-destructive. So do not be afraid to play. Do not be afraid to slide everything around and see what it does. Because that's part of the learning. All right? All right. That's enough for this week. Till next week, you guys take care.